Within a few hours, the mouth of the harbor was dimly visible. But now, the Ohio faced the trickiest stretch of water yet. And the threat didn't come from the Germans or the Italians, but from her own side. For the lashed trio of vessels would have to maneuver their way through the dense minefield, defending Malta's harbor. The Ohio, with only the propulsion of the destroyers at her side to steer with, now had to inch her way along a slender channel fringed by deadly mines that would blow with the gentlest knock. Any deviation in the darkness would send the battered remains of Pedestal sky high.
The ship, they still had trouble trying to keep her straight, and she turned broadside on into the minefields. Well, you've only got a certain amount of room, and then you're among the mines. But just before we got to the harbour, they managed to get her turned around. Of course, we were pleased to get in then.
One by one, the surviving ships of the convoy limped in. The Port Chalmers, the Brisbane Star, and HMS Rye, carrying crews that had been assaulted by continual conflict for 6 days and nights. And finally, the SS Ohio, HMS Penn and HMS Bramham at her sides.
The whole of what had been Malta was blackened by people sitting on the remains of their houses to cheer us in. They realized, just as the Germans had realized, that the Ohio was the key to the whole thing. And you can imagine what it felt like to be a young man coming into that kind of welcome. There's no doubt that it was one of the great moments of one's life. The relief was unbelievable.
The SS Ohio had arrived in Malta intact. Her precious cargo of fuel for the Spitfires and submarines had safely been brought into harbor. But even now, the crew could not relax. Without a second's delay, thousands of tons of precious fuel needed to be removed from the fragile ship before she sank.
We tied her up, and of course we left the ship then, and the dockers took over and started taking the oil out of her, and they lost very little. They got all the rest of the cargo out before she settled on the bottom. All the decks were all buckled up. Her back was broken then, like.
After the narrowest of escapes, Pedestal had achieved its mission, and now Malta could continue with its work. Replenished with diesel and kerosene, its submarines and aircraft continued to starve the German General Rommel of supplies, until his ambitions in North Africa ground to a halt. Malta itself was never taken.
This was the turning point of the Mediterranean operation. Had we failed, Malta would have had to give in within a fortnight. Then there would have been no base from which to attack Italian and German shipping going to North Africa. Rommel would have had as much reinforcement as he could possibly want, and the war would have been prolonged probably by another 2 years. So it is possible to say that Operation Pedestal was one of the crucial turning points of the war.
The Ohio's master, Dudley Mason returned to London, where he was awarded the George Cross. As for the Ohio, the ship that refused to go down continued to refuse. Within hours of offloading her cargo, she sank, but only by a few feet, for she came to rest on the shallow bed at her harbor mooring. And there she remained, giving excellent service as a storehouse and barracks until well after the war, and Malta's freedom was assured.
Well, we didn't want to leave her. We thought we were coming back home on her, you know. But it was disappointing for us because she was a good ship. She was a great ship.
Only when the guns of war had long fallen silent was she sunk in deep water off Malta, the final resting place for the ship that had kept the island free.